Check out FlipsideGaming.com for all your gaming needs. Use the promo code HEROES to save 10% on all orders over $10 and support the channel at the same time. Hey there, this is John from Heroes and Legends, and welcome to another edition of the Magic the Gathering Market Watch. This is an interesting week. This is an in-between week between Protour Ixalan and the release of Iconic Masters. So as you can imagine, there's some ripples happening in the market right now. We're still living through some of the aftermath of the Pro Tour, although things are stabilizing very quickly there, as you'll see. And secondly, Iconic Masters, people are bracing themselves for a big release of cards and some key cards that will be coming out in really less than a week from now, which is pretty exciting. So, quickly before we get started, just a real fast reminder, if you check out the description below, you'll find a few ways to help support what we do here. Our Patreon page is one of them. You'll also find some links to products on Amazon. If you make any purchases there, we get a small percentage. And then finally, Flipside Gaming has also given a promo code so our viewers can save some money. They have a lot going on now, as you can imagine, in pre-order Iconic Masters, Stable. A lot of products have been coming out, so check it out. Hopefully you can save yourself some cash there. With that being said, let's get into it. We're going to start off, as we always do, with Standard and the top 5 cards that have lost the value this week. One thing you're going to notice here, most of the cards on our list today are some of the big cards in Standard right now. And because the Pro Tour is now passed and people are starting to get their decks together, some of these high-priced cards are beginning to stabilize. Number 5 is the Scarab God. Down $1.10 this week to $43.95. So the Scarab God's been going down for a couple weeks now. Does it mean it's seeing less play? No, of course not. The card is still huge. It's still everywhere, showing up in all of these competitive decks, all the different energy decks, as well as control decks. You name it, it's probably running the Scarab God at this point. But at the same time, there's just a lot of copies of the card out there. And as people scramble, they get their copies for their decks for the season, it's going to stabilize. It's just natural. There's a high demand and there's a high supply. So eventually that supply is going to overcome the demand. That's what we're starting to see a little bit. Now this card won't crash significantly in 1 week or anything like that, but I do expect it to continue to trend down over the next few weeks. Number 4, Chandra Torture Defiance, down $1.33 to $37, and another huge card that's seeing tons of play going down this week. And Chandra, in some ways you could argue, is maybe a better long-term card than the Scarab God, because it has a better foothold outside of Standard right now. Scarab God, good commander card, I will give it that, but for the most part, it is a standard card. Where Chandra sees some play in Modern and Jund, sees some play in Legacy Big Red from time to time. So there's some other things out there for Chandra, but definitely a huge standard card for sure. Ramanap Red, vehicles, pretty much anything running red nowadays will like to have Chandra. Nicol Bolas God Pharaoh, down $1.38 to $10.01. This card, not one of the big playables in Standard right now. A good commander card, though, which is probably why it's held its value as well as it has. But this card kind of disappeared off the scene for the most part at this point. It was seeing a little bit of play in some like Grixis control decks really early on when it was released, but those have kind of passed out of the meta now. So, yeah, Nicol Bolas will continue to drop. Number 2, Hostage Taker, down $1.51 to $10.97. Another big card. This one's our first rare on the list, though, not a mythic. So this card, almost below the $10 mark, probably will be there by next week, I would imagine. And a couple of things with the card. Is it still seeing play? Of course it is. But the numbers are being tweaked a little bit in a lot of decks, where this was kind of a slam 4 of in a lot of decks early on. Now you're starting to see 2 and 3 ofs, and that's because I think people are realizing that the card is really good, but it's not as good if you can't quickly cast what you're taking. It becomes a kind of an expensive tempo play then. So because of that, it is getting pared down a little bit. So not the end of the world for this card by any means at all. It's still great. It's still going to continue to see play probably as long as it's in Standard. But the price is coming down, and not just because of that, but because more and more packs of Ixalan are being opened. It is a rare. The market is starting to get a little flooded with these cards as people are getting their copies. Number 1, Gideon of the Trials, down $1.88 to $16.20. So Gideon, we've talked a lot about him over the course of the last few weeks, and he's seeing play. I mean, he's showing up in some of the approach decks in Standard. He's showing up in control decks as well in Modern, among other types of decks sometimes. So Gideon does have a little bit of a foothold, but the price was just really highly inflated going into this meta as people thought maybe Gideon Tribal could be a bigger thing. Unfortunately, when that didn't happen, it still had an inflated price tag. So you're going to see stabilization, just bringing it down to probably where it belongs, considering the amount of play it's seeing. And that is still going to be a little bit lower over the next few weeks, I think. All right, let's move on to the cards that have gained value this week. Coming in at number 5 is God Pharaoh's Gift of 38 cents to $1.58. So Pro Tour coverage was definitely good to the God Pharaoh's Gift deck. One of them made the top 8. And, you know, it's just such a fun deck. It had a kind of a big showing a number of weeks ago and then it started to taper off a little bit, but this has kind of breathed new life into it. That's actually pretty cool. A lot of players will probably be picking these up for like Friday Night Magic and such. So God Pharaoh's Gift goes up a little bit this week. I could see it going up a little bit maybe for another week or two as well, just because the pickup's so cheap. Number 4, Rampaging Ferocidon, up 71 cents to 467. Another card that I think got a boost from the Pro Tour. We knew going into it is a great sideboard card for like Ramanap Red. We saw the Pro Tour, some decks running it in the main in that deck. So you did see a couple in the main, couple in the board. You also saw some Mardu Vehicles decks running this out of the board too. So again, the extra coverage as well as the fact that it does seem to be seeing more gradual play brings it up a little bit. Again, consider, though, this is a rare. You're not going to see a huge spike out of this considering the supply that exists out there and will continue to exist out there for some time to come. So this could go up a little bit more before it stabilizes, though. Number 3, Botanical Sanctum, up 78 cents to 11.43. And this, of course, is one of the key parts to all of these energy mana bases. And because of that, it has been going up quite a bit over the last few weeks. It might go up a little bit more before it stabilizes, but I do expect it to stabilize soon. Number 2, Nissa, Steward of Elements, up $1.01 to $7.50. Another card that I think Pro Tour coverage was very good too. Turns out a lot of these energy decks run this out of the sideboard. I mean, we knew that before the Pro Tour, but it seems like putting the energy decks in the spotlight and seeing this card in action a lot of times helped its value a little bit this week, so it goes up. And I think it will stabilize soon, but it gets a nice bump. Number 1, Angel of Invention, up $2.36 this week to $11. Another card that really benefited from the Pro Tour coverage last weekend. I already mentioned the God Pharaoh's Gift deck top 8ing. That certainly helped this card quite a bit. But another thing we saw was the mono white vampire decks. They actually looked pretty decent. All 5 of them that were in the tournament made it to day 2. None of them topped 8 though. But I do think it had a good matchup against energy. And I think people that saw that in the coverage may be thinking, you know what? It's a deck that's not mainstream that I can bring to my Friday Night Magic, maybe have some good games against energy. Yeah, you know what? I'll pick it up. So I think with the combination of its extra attention in the top 8 as well as that mono white vampire deck, gets a nice little bump this week. All right, let's move on to Modern with the top 5 cards that lost value this week. So we're on the cusp of the release of Iconic Masters. So you can imagine that influence is definitely on the list today. But first, we're going to look at Noble Hierarch from Conflux, down $1.43 this week to $54.99. One of the driving forces behind this is it was recently announced that there will be a promo version of this at RTPQs. And numbers-wise, it's not going to flood the market like if it was a GP promo, so keep that in mind. But it is more copies out there in the wild, so people are getting a little bit nervous. You're seeing the value of this go down, and it will continue to go down, I think, a little bit more at least. Number 4, Thoughtseize from Lorwyn, down $1.46 to $37.18. Now, this version of Thoughtseize had a much lower print run than the Theros version, but it had different art. Some people like this art and would gravitate to this card, leading to a higher price point. Now, with that being said, luckily for us, they decided to go with this art when it comes to the Iconic Masters printing, so it gives some players a different option. I mean, some will always want the original card, sure, but at least if you're just interested in the art and picking up any version with this particular art, then the Iconic Masters is going to be the best value for you, which means this card is taking a hit and it will continue to go down a little more, definitely. Number 3, Magus of the Moon, down $1.50 this week to $25.49. Another card we're going to see at rare in Iconic Masters. Number 2, Scape Shift, down $1.99 to $53.61. Now, this is a card that is not in Iconic Masters, but it did see some significant spiking a couple months ago, so I do think this is normal stabilization for the card, and also maybe just some adjustments in the metagame. Number 1, Horizon Canopy finally takes a decent hit, down $5.13 to $74.66. So this, of course, will be a rare in Iconic Masters, and once packs start getting open next weekend, you should see some declines in all of these cards. But this is an interesting experiment in what happens when players know cards are going to come out well in advance. And I thought we would see bigger hits earlier with some of these cards. But come to find out, players are driven by the fact that they have tournaments to play. So cards like Horizon Canopy have been going up as recently as 2 weeks ago. Now they're finally starting to stabilize down. Even though everybody knew they were coming out, there were going to be copies that were starting to enter the market that would be cheaper. You could save some money in a few weeks if you wait. But people couldn't wait. They were playing in modern tournaments. They were playing in legacy tournaments. They needed Horizon Canopies and they paid for them. So I don't know if I would have guessed that a few weeks back before this whole thing happened, but it's interesting. Definitely helps you analyze cards in the future for sure. All right, let's move on to the top 5 modern cards that have gained value this week. Coming in at number 5 is Crucible of Worlds from 10th edition, up 99 cents to $62.99. So you know it's a mellow week for modern if your number 5 card is going up less than $1. So this probably could have been almost anything, but Crucible of Worlds is a good choice. It's a good card. It sees a lot of play in a lot of formats. Pretty hot right now in Vintage too. So just a card that I think will continue to increase until we finally get a reprint, maybe in Masters 25. Number 4, Lord of the Undead, up $1.21 to $11.39. This card really being driven more by Commander than anything, and the fact that the 8th edition version was a little bit cheaper than some of the others, so in some ways this is stabilization, but there's a lot of different zombie tribal decks out there that have all different commanders attached to them. Number 3, Cavern of Souls from Avacyn Restored, up $1.21 to $53.70. So Cavern of Souls has been hot the last few weeks, and it's a great card in a lot of decks, but the key driver recently has been the Humans deck. That Humans deck really exploded on the scene and kind of dominated our list last week. It's kind of dominating our list again this week, as you'll see from the top 3. Now, Cavern of Souls, also 2 Merfolk decks are doing well, so that's not going to hurt it either. But again, the key driver here, I think, is Humans. Number 2, Ether Vial, up $1.31 to $40.42. This is the Modern Masters version. Now, this card is going to be in Iconic Masters as a rare, so here's exactly what I was talking about a few moments ago. The Humans deck is running this, and because people want to build that Humans deck, they don't want to wait a week or 2 weeks. They're trying to get ahead of some of the spikes. They're going to pay for this, and they're going to pay a little more for it because they want to build the deck. So there you go. Here's a card that's about to have more copies introduced in the market, going up in value just 6 days, really, before it comes out in a new set, which is pretty crazy. So, aside from that, much like the last card, I mean, Ether Vial sees play other places too. Again, Merfolk are pretty hot right now too, but again, the key driver here, I think, is Humans. And number 1, another Humans card, Thalia, Guardian of Thraben, up $1.63 this week to $17.92. Another card that sees play in a lot of different places other than just Humans, of course, but right now I think that's the key driver. All right, let's move on to Legacy and the cards that lost value this week. Well, again, Legacy is pretty mellow too. You're going to notice that as we go through, and a lot of the cards going down are cards that were previous buyouts. So the same thing we've been seeing for a number of weeks now. Number 5, Elephant Graveyard continues its downward spiral, down $24.02 to $125.97. Number 4, Drop of Honey, down $26.67 this week to $400.55. This card's been dropping gradually since it spiked really hard a few months back. I mean, originally the attention on the card was due to the fact that there was 2 of in a land stack in Legacy. But of course, I think some people took advantage of that fact, that they thought some people may want this card to play with, and a lot of copies got picked up really quick. Now, there's not a lot of copies out there, so again, you can make an impact on the market really with just a few copies. So partially, it probably was players looking to play the card. Partially, it was someone trying to take advantage of that. But you can see some copies have been coming back into the market recently as this has been going down gradually. I think that will continue to a degree, but keep in mind, the card will never go back down as low as it was originally. Number 3, Urnam Jinn, down $39.50 to $269.50. So this is another card from Arabian Nights that was bought out. This one wasn't even a reserve list card, but yes, it's been going down gradually over the last few weeks. Number 2, City of Brass, down $58.02 to $236.98. Same story here, not a reserve list card, but it was a target of a buyout. It's going back down now. Number 1, the Tabernacle of Pendreval, down $75 to $1,338. A couple weeks ago, this saw a little bit of a spike, but I do think that was a natural spike, just normal stabilization, and since then, it's been coming down a little bit to make up for it. All right, let's move into the top 5 Legacy cards that have gained value this week. Coming in at number 5, Serendib Jinn, up $10.45 to $119.94. So I don't think this is a buyout or anything. This card was bought out a number of months ago, and it's kind of stabilized since. I think this is just normal stabilization, probably still the ripple effects of that buyout more than anything. I don't think this is the beginning of a new spike, but we'll kind of have to wait and see. Number 4, Cyclopean Tomb from Unlimited, up $13.14 to $34.72 this week. And this is a good card if you want to play with Swamp Walk. I don't think this is market manipulation or anything like that. It feels like just kind of a gradual increase. You might see a little snapback from this card within a week or two, but it is a very good card, and I do think it is somewhat undervalued. Number 3, Volcanic Island from Unlimited, up $24.82 to $492.96 this week. Number 2, Force Field from Unlimited, up $29.65 to $199.99. Normal fluctuation for this card, I think. It's been going down a little bit, but it's been gradually coming up over the last few weeks. Number 1, Jazam Jinn, up $200 and a cent to $899.98. Now, last week this card started to go up a little bit. This week is a huge mover. Now, Last week, I kind of said, I don't think this is a buyout because the week before it had a long time low. So I thought maybe that just gathered some attention on the card and some people bought the cheaper copies and we're seeing a spike. But this spike continues significantly this week. So I'm not sure what to think. If it is just truly just normal market value spiking due to the fact that the card was low a couple weeks ago, or if somebody just went ahead and decided, you know what? There's not that many copies out there. Let's just try to buy it out. So we'll kind of have to see what happens with this card. It could be a buyout. I do expect either way, though, that we're going to see snapback. This is a very aggressive spike, and it can't possibly stabilize at that high of a price that quickly. So you will see this card come back down. But again, this is a great long-term card. Reserve list, very iconic Magic card. Very, very hard to find now because it was a rare from Arabian Nights. And over time, yes, this card will become a $900 card. I just don't think it's there quite yet. Now, with that being said, I actually don't have any notable cards on the list this week beyond our cards that we saw on the different top fives, just due to the fact that I think things are a little slow right now. We're entering the holiday time, so I think people's attention are kind of moved into different places, especially considering all the Magic product coming out. So the singles market is kind of getting the cold shoulder probably maybe for a week or so, because you have Iconic Masters coming out, you have the From the Vault Transform, you have the Dual deck just came out, you have Unstable about to come out. I'm sure I'm missing something. Explorers of Ixalan's coming out. So they're pushing a lot of holiday products. Of course, they just announced the Ixalan Buy a Box promo pack 2, which we did a video on recently. So there's a lot of places for your money to go right now. So I think singles market might be taking a little bit of a nap. So I expect things to heat up though next week as Iconic Masters starts to hit the market. I think we'll see some interesting things and interesting results from that. Not only will cards that are in the set go down, but I think cards that play well with those cards will go up. So we'll start to see some movement for sure. But until next time, hey, thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe and have a great day. Hey, thanks for watching. This video is made possible by the generous support of viewers like you on Patreon. Check out the description below for links to our Patreon page as well as our Amazon affiliate store, where a small percentage of all sales will also help support the channel. Finally, if you haven't had a chance yet to subscribe, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any new videos on Heroes and Legends. Talk to you again soon, and have a great day.